Good morning, Phantom shipmates. It is 05:55 in the morning on June 10th, 2024. Now's the day, now's the hour. Let's get going. I'm going to hoist the sails in just a couple minutes here. Just going to turn up into the wind here. But I'm doing this a little differently this time. I mean, I do this quite often, but I haven't shown it before. If you have very heavy sails, full battens, extra material, whatever, sometimes it's a challenge getting the sails up. So one of the things that you can do is what they call scandalising the mainsail before you hoist the sail. And that's, you hook the topping lift, you raise the boom up, and that's what I've done now. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a good 30 centimeters higher than normal. And that way when you hoist the sail, you're not pulling on the tightness of the leech, and you're not trying to lift the boom as well. I don't usually do it on the first hoist of the day, but after 4 or 5 maneuvers and you're a little bit tired, it helps. So I'll be doing that in just a minute here. I'll turn the camera back on as soon as I get in a place where I can do the maneuver to hoist the sails. Scandalising the mainsail. Okay, here we go. I have about 1.5 meters to go. After you get the sail up, remember to release the topping lift. Now you may say you still had to winch it up the last 1.5 meters, 2 meters even. But when you have scandalized the mainsail, then when you have to winch, the winching is very easy. You don't have to muscle it up either. So it's an activity worth doing. Like I say, I usually don't do it on the first hoist of the day, but I do it on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th because I get a bit tired then. Okay. Underway. It is written that all great adventures begin at dawn. Don't sleep in. Cast off those lines. So I'm now entering the, as the French call it, the Gulf de Gascogne. Everyone else calls it the Bay of Biscay, but the French call it after a region of France, which is roughly where from Bordeaux down to the Pyrenees, is called Gascogne, and that's what the French refer to this bay, the Bay of Biscay, as the Gulf of Gascogne. So that's where I'm off. I was originally planning to go to the Azores, but I have some stuff I need to take care of in July. So I'm just going to go to the northwest corner of Spain, to A Coruña or Bilbao and some of the Rias there, just for a couple of weeks, and then come back, take care of my stuff, and then in August or September I'll probably go to the Azores. And Bilbao and A Coruña, that's about between 320 and 350 nautical miles away, depending which one I go to first. Well, I've been in and out of squalls all day. There's one that's just fading away over there. Whoa! There's another one on the horizon coming at me over there. And that has forced me to put in the second reef because the wind varies from a very nice 16 knots to, in the squalls, it suddenly ramps up to 23, 25 knots. So I had to put in 2 reefs, and that slowed me from 8 knots to 6 knots speed over ground. That's frustrating, but so what? So what? Every day is Saturday. Listen to the wind blow. Watch the sunrise. That's good enough for me. Someone asked me where my life raft is on this boat, and it's right under this panel here. Very easy to get to. You drop the ladder. This is going to jerk me out. There you go. Pop this here, and then there's 2 little clips here. Open them up, and there it is. That's the life raft, and I've tied it off here. The painter is tied on here, and I just kicked out over the side, and then you pull on the painter. You pull on the line, that's called the painter. You pull on that real hard and snap it, and it will cause the air inflation device to fire. So I think I could get to it really in less than a minute for sure. So no problems there. Hopefully I never have to test that. Something I wanted to share with you, and maybe somebody give me an idea. Look at this engine foot mounting on my Volvo Penta, and the other one is almost new. I can tell you, this is my 3rd Volvo Penta engine, and all of 3 of them were that way. One of them was terribly corroded, and the other one looked like new. All 3 of them. Now the first one, in my Bavaria, I changed that when I changed the gator, that big rubber seal there that protects the sail drive. So I changed it when you have to lift that out anyway. I changed the foot. But it's not due for another 2 years to change that. So I'm wondering, is there a way to just lift the engine 2 or 3 millimeters without having to undo the sail drive and everything else, and just swap that out and put a new one in? Because I'm a bit worried about that one. So if any of you have any ideas or suggestions. While we're up here, I want to show you something else, another corrosion problem. Let me get in position here. Now this may not show up here, but we're in the anchor locker now, and that is my Lewmar winch, electric motor that attaches obviously to the anchor winch. And I don't know if you can see it, but it is horribly corroded. And I sent a picture of that, a nice clear picture in case this video doesn't show up. I sent a picture of it to Lewmar, and I was expecting them to say, oh yeah, sorry about that, you know, but we have an option where you can buy that with a motor with a plastic casing or with stainless steel. No, not at all. They responded, well, you should have covered that up so it didn't get wet. What's wrong with this picture? An anchor windlass that can't tolerate water. Damn, I put out the wrong sail. That's the code 0, that's not the Gennaker. Ah! So much work. I am an idiot. And my solar panel, folding solar panel, which is a super panel. I mean, it's really done some fantastic, coupled with a Victron MPPT. Wow, did this put, it's 135 watts. Was it ever fantastic? But exactly the same thing that happened to me last year. Last year on my way to Norway, on my trip to Iceland and Norway, it stopped working halfway through the trip. But when it worked, it was fantastic. And this, suddenly yesterday afternoon at 1500, it just went to zero. So I have replaced it now with an old one I had that's very inefficient, but you know, it gets the job done in bright sunshine. You know, I guess the only thing I can really say, I think what happens is it gets wet from the from waves splashing over especially as I was close hauled yesterday, waves splashing over the bow, and somehow or other it's not watertight enough, so they just fail. And so that's the second one that's failed, and so I guess the only thing I can really say honestly is don't get one of these. You know, I hate to say that, but I've had 2 of them fail halfway through cruises. One of the challenges of the Bay of Biscay is that is the continental shelf. You go from several thousand meters of depth to 40 to 60 meters of depth in a zero time period. And now I'm about 20 miles from arrival at Vivero, and that's right where this continental shelf comes around the coast of Spain. So sometimes it can be a pretty interesting arrival. Not today, I mean, but no, it's enough to catch your attention, that's for sure. Shipmates, I'm just getting underway from Vivero in the northwest coast of Spain, headed back toward mainland France. After a few days here, I had a very nice time. I'll be back later this summer or early in the fall. Yeah, still got plans going on there. This passage back to mainland France, so I'm thinking my destination is Lorient, which is kind of the northwest corner of France up toward Brest. This promises to be rock and roll. I predict wind says I'm going to be having 25 to 30, gusts to 35 for about 3/4 of this passage. So this is going to be rock and roll. But the good news is that it's all between 120 and 150 degrees apparent, so deep downwind. And I'll show you how I manage every boat. You know, it's my strategy, but I'll show you how I manage high winds when running downwind. As soon as it starts to get uncomfortable, I'll show you what I do, and you can take that under consideration. Would that work for your boat or not? So underway, let's go have some fun. 28 knots of true wind, 8 knots speed over ground, 23 knots, 21 knots, 23 knots of apparent wind. My autopilot is kind of right at the limit of what it can handle here. We swear 20 degrees off and then come back again. This is where those really much more expensive autopilots do a better job, but I'll leave it as it is for a while longer. And if it starts getting a little too wild, then I'll drop the mainsail and just run with the Genoa out. This is something I've done many times before in high wind conditions. See, now the boat is overpowered, pulled up into the wind. We rounded up into the wind
The boat just wasn't able to handle that. There was a big gust of wind that came up. Now it's stabilizing back out again. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the mainsail. So how do you drop the mainsail? I'm going to try to, instead of, you know, who wants to turn up into the wind into that? You know, I mean, that would be painful. Turn up into the wind and try to drop it down. So I'm going to try to run completely downwind, pretty far downwind, and drop it by pulling down the reef line. I'll see if that works. Well, I tried to let it come down. In fact, the main sheet is completely released now. The sail could fall down by itself. So I'm heading deep downwind, and I can't pull the sail down by pulling on the reef line. It has even jibed back and forth. Now I've got it very close to center, so it doesn't do any damage that way. But that means, so what I'm going to do now is sheet in the Genoa as tight as I can and turn back up into the wind to 30 degrees so that it luffs. Okay, now I've sheeted in the Genoa really tight. I'm still heading pretty much downwind. You can see how the mainsail has fallen way over into the spreaders and the other line. So there's no way that I could get that down, not in this wind, which is 25 knots. So I'm going to turn up into the wind now. I don't think I'll be able to film this, but I'll give it a try. Stand by. Turn up into the wind to 30 degrees. I'm strapped in, of course, because you could get pitched overboard easily if you're not strapped in here. So there's 90 degrees. There's 60 degrees to the wind. And you can see the mainsail is still, I might just be able to pull it down now. I'll give it a try. I might have to go forward to do that. Let's see if I can get it a little higher into the wind. There's not enough power in the, I can't get any higher. I might be able to pull it down by going forward now. So off with the camera. Actually didn't have to go forward. Now I just have to go forward to pull it down the final bit. It's come down by itself just by pulling up into the wind. I did get it up to 40 degrees. There's 30 to 40 degrees. Woo. So now that it's down, I think I'll turn completely downwind. There we go. Everything is much more manageable now. Nice and calm. I'll just go pull the mainsail all the way down, and after I get able to stabilize again, I'll really let the Genoa back out again. So I'll keep it as it is for right now. But let's go unhook the mainsail. Okay, so now I've tied off the mainsail, brought it completely down. This is my favorite sail configuration for running downwind in 25 to 30 knots or more of wind. Just with the Genoa out, partially furled, and with the mainsail down, it's completely distressed. You know that you're not going to rip the mast off, and you know, everything is fine. You can go and relax a bit. Nothing dramatic is going to happen. So this is my favorite go-to position when the weather is not cooperating. It's supposed to get worse. I'm supposed to get another 5 knots of wind or so. So I think that's a good decision. And I'm sure that once I let out the Genoa again and turn to my course, I'm sure I'll be doing over 6 knots. That's fine. And there we go. 28 knots of true wind, 7.8 knots of speed over ground. Even more, 8 knots speed over ground on just the Genny. And I can go take a nap or read a book or whatever. Well, looking at the
30 to 32 knots now. It's blowing out there, and those seas are from 2 to 4 meters. Varies. A little while ago, Jenna asked me, "Are you a Christian sailor?" I answered, "Ma'am, I am tonight." This is North Sea weather. Taking a summer vacation in the Bay of Biscay. Go back up to visit Eric the Viking. He appreciates you. The bad news is Gale, but I'm doing 9.8 knots over speed over ground. So bad news is the wind, and the good news is I'm flying. Well, a real test for Jenna tonight. Certainly brings to mind Gordon Lightfoot. When the waves turn the minutes to hours. Now you may be wondering, you know, why did I leave? Why did I come out in this? And the answer is, I would not have come out in this. I was expecting 20 to 25 knots, gusting to 30, 31. That's what the European model said. And it's supposed to start easing off about 3 o'clock in the morning, I think. 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to start easing. But this is not 20 to 25 gusting to 30. This is 30 to 35 gusting to 40. You know, in aviation there's that saying, it's eminently preferable to be on the ground wishing you were in the air rather than the other way around. This is one of those occasions where I'm at sea wishing I were in port. Anyway, Jenna can handle this well. I'm running downwind. I've just got a sliver of the Genoa out, and I've got 220 miles to go. We're fine. One of the things I'm concerned about is that despite the overcast, the solar panel is keeping the I haven't had to use the engine all day, and it's 8:30 at night. I'm concerned that as soon as when the sun goes down, the autopilot is working so hard that I'm going to have to start the engine up 2 or 3 times during the night. I'll run it for an hour and 15 minutes each time. For an hour and 15 minutes each time, and just going out, turning the engine on, running the engine when it's rough weather like this. If there's any garbage in the bottom of the fuel tank, it gets disturbed, and so that's one of the things that concerns me, is having to start the engine up during the night, certainly more than one time. Now let's see how it all plays out. 6 o'clock in the morning. The gale conditions ended about 2 o'clock. Oh, that was a tough night. With wind for about 4 or 5 hours was between 35 and 42 knots. That was tough. I was up essentially all night. I'm feeling about half past dead. I need to find some place to lay my head. Well, it's a Chelsea morning, and that's as good an event as any to put the Gennaker out. So I'm looking at 9 knots of apparent wind, 10 knots of apparent wind at 120 degrees apparent. Normally I put out the Genoa first, but today I want to just run a test of putting it out, launching it without the Genoa first. We'll see how it works. immediately added 3 knots. I'm watching as my Gennaker is struggling to stay filled in the very light air we have today. And that brings to mind a subject. You know, these Gennakers and the anti-torsion cable and the furlers, they're actually quite expensive. I'm lucky. I have one for the Code Zero, and I have the Gennaker as well. But I call it Code Zero. It's actually more of a cruising chute. A real Code Zero is more triangular, with the clue is a little higher, but they serve the same purpose. The Code Zero, very light air, very light material, and quite good for those situations. The Gennaker, at least mine, is more for medium to heavy air, and it's much larger, much more powerful, but it struggles in very light air to stay filled. You know, it floats around. A little while ago it wrapped around the Genoa. So here's my question for you: if you could only have one, which one would it be? And I have a strong feeling about that. I'll tell you my view. My view is, if you could only have one, get a Code Zero or a cruising chute, which is very similar. That's because it's really hard to keep moving in low wind, in light air. It takes a lot of skill, and a Code Zero or a cruising chute would really help in those situations. Whereas in medium to heavy air, you know, you can use a Genoa. You can get by without a Gennaker, without an asymmetric spinnaker, a big one, in medium to heavy air. So if you only can afford one, my view is go with the Code Zero. But I'm curious, you know, you guys have a lot more experience than I do. So what would be if you could only have one, because of cost limitations, which one would it be? A Code Zero or a larger asymmetric Gennaker? Food for thought. Hello, Penta shipmates. That island behind me is called the Ile de Broye, which protects the entrance to the city of Lorient in northwest France, which means that I have successfully crossed the Bay of Biscay yet again for the 30th time. Biscay, ever the same, ever a surprise. But you know how I'll be celebrating tonight.